Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Rumcast. We are the podcast that talks all things rum-related with the people who love and shape it. A very interesting episode we have lined up today with Peter Holland, a man who we say wears many hats in the business, and happy to talk through all those. But of course, before we get to our interview today, let's check in with Will, my compadre, co-host extraordinaire. Will Hookinga, what's going on in your corner of the world?
Hey John, I'm pretty excited right now because we did something for the first time ever in the last week that we haven't done before. Do you know what it was?
No.
Come on, this should be super obvious.
Wait, what is it? We did something this week that we've never done before.
We released our first ever bonus Rumcast episode for the first time ever.
Man,
never
I was so
done.
I was so past that already. I was already thinking of bonus episode number 2. That's where my brain was going already.
Yeah. No. Before we jump into everything, I just want it was really fun for us to do. We did a bonus episode for our Patreon community, and something we want to start doing once a month. It's basically kind of a rundown of interesting and noteworthy rum releases. This is something that John and I have talked about doing for a while because kind of the only way to know about upcoming releases, I feel like, is to just scroll through a million social media communities and stuff like that. And we wanted to create another way. So just kind of, our take, what we think is interesting about upcoming releases and stuff. But yeah, if you want to check that out, you can go to patreon.com/therumcast. And when you sign up on any of our levels there, you'll get access to the extra monthly episode. So now that plug is out of the way, but I am actually genuinely excited about it. Actually, after we recorded the first episode, we were both like, that was fun.
Yeah.
We were really excited about it. So
it was fun to try something slightly different and focus our kind of discussion and energy on that, and help to really kind of just bring things out organically, which was cool. So I hope a lot of people get to check that out soon. It was fun, and I look forward to bonus episode number 2. Like I was saying,
that's right.
I'm already writing notes down. Yeah,
that's right. Taking notes. Before we get to this interview with Peter Holland of the Floating Rum Shack.com, also UK brand ambassador for Foursquare Rum Distillery, and kind of just general rum guy over at That Boutique-y Rum Company, an independent bottler over there based out of the UK. There was something in particular in this interview that really jumped out to me. And of all things, it made me think of a beverage that is native to the part of the country that I primarily grew up in, which is Alabama. Mm-hmm. When I say native beverage to Alabama, I'm curious because you're in Florida, so technically a neighboring state. There's a border that's shared. Yeah. What comes to mind for you, even though you're all the way down at the very southern tip down there in Miami?
Right. I live in Miami, not Florida, as they say. But I'm trying to steer clear of anything.
I will. Yeah, I know you're gonna get your Alabama jokes in. They're all easy to write themselves, just like the Florida jokes do. I will say that this is a beverage that's not native specifically to Alabama. It's really most of the Southeast in general. It's a variation on a beverage that's enjoyed all over the world, but only prepared in one very specific way around the southeastern United States. And I was actually curious to find out if it's as big a thing in Florida. I'm guessing it might not be.
No,
but you seem like you're grasping at straws here. So
well, the only thing I can think of, the picture that conjures in my mind in Alabama, which is totally wrong, is like moonshine type of thing. So is it related to moonshine?
I wish that was the case. I mean, I'm sure there are some moonshiners in Alabama. I never personally encountered any of them growing up. I think I was going to the wrong parties or something. It probably had more to do with I left Alabama when I turned 18. So,
as you got to the age where you would have been initiated, you left.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, the beverage I'm talking about is a lot more family friendly. It's sweet tea. Sweet tea, John. Sweet tea.
No, sweet tea is a thing here.
It's a thing even down in Miami?
It is even in Miami. I'm not a sweet tea drinker.
I'm not either at this point in my life. Now, when I was growing up, I did really enjoy sweet tea. Milo's Sweet Tea, which is a very famous brand that you can get at grocery stores, actually started in Alabama. Not a lot of people know this, but there's a fast food, burger place called Milo's that's only in Alabama, and that's where Milo's Sweet Tea comes from. But anyway, why am I talking about sweet tea right now? It's because there was something in this interview that made me think about the idea of being able to order tea in the South and knowing it's going to be sweet as hell, right? Because
okay, I think I see where you're going
if
here.
If you have someone visiting the South, from another part of the country, and maybe they're an iced tea drinker, right? And if you're sitting there at the restaurant and they order an iced tea, 9 times out of 10, if it's, if the person kind of has experience, they're going to be like, now, it's sweet tea, because if you're
that's
from
the default setting.
If you're from the South, you don't order iced tea, right? You say sweet tea or whatever. In my experience, that's how it goes anyway. And anyway, just having that distinguishing factor on the style, knowing it's sweet when you're going into it.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this because in our interview with Peter, we do a lot of talking about Madeira rum. Peter just recently took a trip to Madeira. He's been there a few times. That Boutique-y Rum Company has bottled some rums from distilleries in Madeira. And he mentioned something to me that I did not know about, which was that in the past, there was a class of Madeira rum that was called beneficiado. And I looked this up after the interview. And essentially what that means is it's rum that has been sweetened. And on the label, he said, they had to put beneficiado on there. And it turns out, as Peter explains to us, apparently they've gotten rid of this class of rum, and you just can't sweeten rum at Madeira rum at all now anymore.
Yeah.
But I looked it up and I found some images of bottles that say, rum agricola Madeira beneficiado right there on the label. And I thought to myself, man, that's nice. I like that. If you're gonna add, sweeten rum in some way, I like the idea of sort of embracing it and being like, this is just a style of rum, right? It's beneficiado.
Yeah.
And having a clear meaning of what that is, and having people be able to see it next to regular rum and, make the decision before they buy it, right? So I don't know. That was just a really interesting thing to me, interesting concept, and it stuck out to me.
That is interesting. Beneficiado, I think, just means like benefited from.
That's what I thought too.
But is it different than that? Yeah,
I don't know. See, I have very little knowledge of Spanish, and I have even smaller knowledge of Portuguese. So, that's a good point. I thought it was maybe something like that. So,
well, right. It kind of just is probably wrong without researching it, but like it feels like they might have said benefited from added, whatever sugar.
Right.
And so that's kind of where the meaning, maybe it just shrank down to one word over time.
Maybe a subjective meaning, whether it benefited or not. But, I'm less focused on the meaning of it and just the concept of like having some distinguishing factor.
No, I totally agree with you. Yeah, but I also find it interesting, the word choice also, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're such a word nerd.
I am a word nerd.
And how I'm the one who writes for a living, but you're the one who's always sitting here, breaking down
I'm like a
lexicon of the show in some way.
I am. I'm just a philologist. I love words.
Philologist.
Yeah, wow. Philologist. Yeah.
Okay.
That is an actual thing, and like that's the right word.
I don't.
I'm just nerdy enough to know that. Going back to what you said about sweet tea, though. So now, having heard that conversation, I'm not a tea drinker, but when I go out with people who do order tea, here in Miami at least, which is a very different kind of mix of cultures, it is always just, you ask for more iced tea, I guess, usually, but they will ask you sweetened or unsweetened.
That can happen too. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you'll be offered a choice.
Right. Almost always here. They'll ask you. Yeah. To clarify, I guess you would say, which also is interesting in a way because, when you come back to rum and you think about that, like, I want to have the choice.
Right.
Right. I don't mind a sweetened rum as long as I know it's sweetened and I'm in the mood for that. But, I gravitate towards the unsweetened stuff.
Yeah, and I would say there's degrees of it.
That's fair.
I pretty much always prefer, like, if I know a rum is sweetened, I'm probably not going to buy it. Again, I'm not casting judgments on people who do gravitate toward that. I'm just saying, for me personally, I probably won't buy it. But that being said, I've had rums that have been sweetened that I think, it's still decent,
Right.
And then I've had ones that I'm just like, oh God, this is it's like drinking syrup basically.
Yeah. That's a really great way to explain it though to people who may not even be in the know or thinking about it in those terms. It's interesting. But back to Madeira. So Madeira is famous for its wine, right? Which is a thing. I mean, most people know that. It's great.
It's fortified wine, I believe.
It's fortified. Yep. Mm-hmm. Also, a very, very good board game called Madeira, by the way, out there. So fans of the board games that listen to the show, they might know the game Madeira. But the rum also has a long history, which is what Peter kind of explains a little bit to us about and what you're
because
kind of referencing
sugarcane
as
is
well.
such a long history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So really a fascinating part of the conversation.
And that was just one part of it. So
it was
it sounds like we're building up Peter as like all he does is Madeira rum, and that's not really true at all. As we said, Peter's been in the rum world for a really long time. He started a website called the Floating Rum Shack back in 2008 as just a blog. So he's been writing about it for so long, and it was really interesting to get his perspective on just like what the rum universe was like back then at that time and how it's grown and at how he has grown with it, because he started out as a hobbyist essentially, and now it's his full-time job. Like we said, he's the UK brand ambassador for Foursquare. He's very involved at That Boutique-y Rum Company, actually very involved in like picking releases and stuff like that, and even involved in some of those wildly creative labels that our listeners may be familiar with if they've seen the releases from them before. So a really fun interview. We bounced around all over the rum world. Like we said, Foursquare, independent bottlers, Madeira rum, rum education, all kinds of stuff. Peter's a fun guy, and he humored us and, really delivered. So excited for people to hear this one.
Yeah, it's always great to hear from somebody across the pond, as they say.
As they say.
Yeah,
yes.
For us to hear more about the UK market and a lot of what's going on there. So I guess let's take a quick break, and we'll get right back with it.
All right, we are here with Peter Holland, the man behind the floatingrumshack.com. Peter, I have an embarrassing confession to make, which was the first time I ever heard about you and the Floating Rum Shack. I was talking with a rum friend who is in Fiji, and he mentioned, he really started getting into rum a while back, and he attended a class from Peter Holland of the Floating Rum Shack, and I was like, wow, this guy's like on a boat, like going around the world all the way to Fiji to teach people about rum. I thought it was a literal floating rum shack, and you were just, traveling the oceans all around the world, spreading the word of rum everywhere, which is, basically what you're doing, just without the boat. But it was a really cool image, imagining this actual floating rum shack. And I'm wondering if I'm the only person who's ever been stupid enough to make that mistake, or if other people do this too.
Honestly, it's there's a lot to be said for having a name that's unique. Like that kind of stands out, because you got to have a USP, you got to have something that stands out. But for a lot of times we get people on the run up to Christmas going like, can we book a party for like 30 people at your place? That's it. I was like, look over at the wife and go like, I'm not sure we'll get 30 people in our front room, but we can go out and get cushions and stuff. Yeah, whatever, like $50 a head. Yeah, no, come on in. So, it's caused some confusion over the years. And we have had people trying to kind of go like, can we borrow the name actually? Because we've got like a pontoon like on our seafront bar, and it'd be good. And I go like, well, I know there's nothing to do. I haven't got a legal department. I can't stop you. But if you could not, please, that'd be great. Thank you.
No, you're being very humble. There's an entire team of lawyers behind your shoulder just to make sure you don't say anything incriminating.
Oh God, I wish.
On the note of names, we were extremely creative over here with the Rumcast.
Oh, yeah.
See, we combined the word rum with the word podcast. Most people, I think, don't realize that, because it
took us like 2 weeks to get there.
Just so out of the box.
So, Peter, in addition to operating the Floating Rum Shack, Floating Rum Shake would be something completely different. Probably been there too. But I know you're also the UK brand ambassador for Foursquare and the global ambassador for That Boutique-y Rum Company. You do a lot of those rum education events that we talked about in events, and I've even seen you write somewhere you're essentially, quote, a rum guy for hire. That's a lot of hats. So I guess I wanted to ask, to start us off, how do you describe to people, especially even those outside of the rum world, what it is that you do?
Oh man, well you've got it all. Well done. I got congratulations on the research. It's very very difficult. I mean, I get folks say, "What do you do?" Like, 'cause I need something. I need a category for they want to put me down on a form or something or other. It's so very difficult to pigeonhole what we do. Everything I do is kind of education driven, but yeah, occasionally writing right now. Right, I've got a bunch of things that I need to do, and one of which is like I've got 2 articles that I need to write for the forthcoming Rum Annual, and that deadline's looming. It's looming hard, and it's really weighing on me. And yeah, we work with the 2 brands. I do other stuff. Honestly, if I think I put it on Twitter. I goes, if it's rummy, I'm probably involved with it in some form or other. Not to a great degree. Maybe I'm not very good at it necessarily. I wouldn't say I'm a great writer these days, but it's nice to be involved with all aspects of the rum world. It's the being balanced and being trying to get all inputs. Because I was looking through. I mean, you give us a little primer on things we might talk about, and I was kind of looking at like, God, where I was a few years ago to where I am now is so very very different. Very different, and I don't regret the journey at all, because it's always about learning and new things. But like you kind of like the perspective that I kind of cherished a few years ago, oh my God, it's slipping away, because you get drawn into the industry, and you get drawn in from one side of the industry. And so actually I have someone coming to me asking me about writing about, like what do I, views and things. It's actually quite nice, because then you have to step back a moment and stop thinking about the next launch or whatever it might be, and and actually guess like, well, what are the real people thinking about? Let's have a look on the forums, and and see what are the real folks, what are the actual rum drinkers chatting about right now? What's important to them? And it's actually nice to be grounded once in a while. So that's a roundabout way of answering the question.
Well, on that note of what people are talking about and everything, you've been in the trenches as a rum educator and writing about rum a lot longer than many people that are out there these days. You started Floating Rum Shack in 2008, I believe was the year. I kind of wanted you to take us back to that time. Like, what was the landscape of rum education like then? What were kind of the common topics being discussed, and what sort of pushed you to start the site and insert yourself insert yourself into the conversation in the first place?
Make yourself comfortable, guys. Strap yourself in. Right.
Very comfortable.
Back in my day, I tell you, the nice thing about where we are in the modern era is we're in a far, far better place, I would suggest, from an education and from a knowledge point of view than we've ever been. But you can dial into your podcast. You can get really good information right there on demand as you want it, right from insightful with the people that you want to talk to. You rewind to when we started the website, so 2008. It was a while ago, and I don't want to make it sound like it was a long time ago, but lots of things in the technology world has changed. Having access to information on demand, like via your smart computer in your pocket, that's not a thing,
Yeah.
And I would say I'm not and have never been a forum kind of person. I don't hang around on forums. It's just not me at all. And so there was like Ministry of Rum. And so if you wanted to find out about stuff, you went to Ministry of Rum. There's some other places, Jimbo and Captain Jimbo and stuff. There's things going on. But there wasn't lots and lots of resources, and there wasn't different formats of resources, things that can kind of capture the imagination, YouTube and stuff. They just didn't really exist. So I kind of the writing as I did it. I mean, my background is not rum production, it's not rum sales. I'm not involved with it at all. It's engineering background,
right?
And rum was very much just as a hobby, just to kind of break the monotony of the stressful day job. And so it's like, honestly, when we started writing the blog, I really didn't give a shit whether anyone read it or not, because I actually enjoyed the moments of writing it up, and just literally, it was the creative process of creating something. I'm deeply embarrassed when everyone mentions like the Floating Rum Shack now, because the website is just in a terrible state. Kind of the data's there, but it's kind of not accessible in a big way. And so the website, when you look at it now, you're like, well, geez, what's this all about? But I don't regret where we were, because I think there was a lot of enthusiasm, and it was raw and untapped. And if I was to like try not to sound like a grumpy old man, I am near knocking on 50's door, so I'm a little bit of the older persuasion. It was very much of an era when, if it had the word rum in the name, it was cool. Like, just rum in general was cool. And so it didn't matter who turned up for a rum club, like, a Trailer Happiness or whatever, it's like, it was great. Some were definitely better than others. But like, yeah, things have moved on such a long way in terms of the quality of brands. And so, I mentioned I was, before this, I was sort of just starting to get my vibe together by listening to the interview with Frank Ward, a gentleman whom I've enjoyed 2 rum clubs at Trailer Happiness, hosting a Mount Gilboa rum club. Now, how many people I look back and go like, God damn, I wish I was there. And you're like, well, we kind of took it for granted, I've got my very dusty bottle of Mount Gilboa off the shelf, which if you nice. You won't be able to see it on there, but there's a cork floating in it.
Wow.
And it has been probably for the last 10 years.
I do see something
that really, I mean, it's at the back of the shelf kind of thing, but it's, it's, these are the things we've got. And at the time, and just again, listening to Frank, he's a tricky bugger. He really is. Frank is a mine of information. I hope you listen to this, Frank, but you have to know what question to ask him. If you know the right question to ask him, he will unload so much information. Yes. We've been there at Rumfest 2010 or whenever it'll be, when he was there with his Mount Gilboa stand, and there's so much you could learn from him, but you just have to know what to ask him. If you don't ask him the right question, well, then he just keeps it all locked up inside. And that was already, it's like, I love the guy to bits. He's awesome. We met him a number of times over the year. I've got some cool memories of it, like in Barbados and stuff with. But things like that, I kind of like, was I prepared at the time to make the most of what was going on at that time? Was I forward thinking enough at the time? And the answer is no to all of these questions. I just kind of like swanned in and enjoyed the moment, drunk the rum and fucked off home. And it was like, did we do it? But it was fun. It got us. What
do you think you would have done differently?
I think I think in hindsight, I think I would have probably jumped electronic far, sort of like YouTube or something like that, far earlier in life, and got people on board. But I mean, that's an easy one to go back. I mean, I kind of like, I'm not sounds terrible, but it's only really during lockdown that I started watching YouTube in a big way. I don't know what kind of idiot I am. I don't know, just old school maybe, but it's, so I wish I'd done it. I do the last 3 Christmases in a row. I go like, Pete, you really must, beginning of the year, get that website, get a grip with it, get on there and start posting again. Pete, you really should. You absolutely should. People keep introducing you as Pete the Floating Rum Shack, and you're like, people will be looking and you're like, what the hell is, like, who is this guy? There's a whole generation of people that have grown up and wouldn't possibly even met us, So it's the nice thing about the rum world, as was when we got into it, was that, and it is still very much the case now, there's lots of bartenders that are very geeky and enthusiastic about the rum category. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, you hang around in the booze industry for a while, the people that were even like barbacks become bartenders, become bar managers, chain owners, or brand ambassadors or whatever, and you can feel, and you hang around the industry long enough, you feel that people move through. And so the people that were geeky about it, at the time, there was a sense of that sort of community and camaraderie about it, but we weren't challenging the rum world to the depths that that people do now. We dissect the rum world far more, and it's trench warfare isn't quite the right word. It gets pretty vociferous, and and there were people back then who were very, very passionate about it, but we didn't seem to carp in our world quite as much. I mean, there's when I started, Mike Streeter of Rum Connection was one of my big inspirations. Matt Robold of Rum Dude was a big, Tattoo Carlos of like Refined Vices. They were the 3 websites that were posting regularly that I drew a lot of inspiration from, of like what they were doing. And when we talk about Jimbo, I don't know what, I honestly, I don't know what ever happened to Captain Jimbo. He might have died of a heart attack. I've no idea. But like, but you kind of knew you'd made it in the rum world when you got the email from him going like, well, you're either with me or against me, kind of, like, dude, it's rum. What do you mean? Rum is fun. Like, what have I got to choose sides? Choose sides on what, Yeah. So there were people that...
We talked quite a bit about him with Lance Surajbali from the Lone Canner.
Yeah. Well, I never, you know what, I know when you get that email, you go like, well, I guess I've made it, but then equally, I didn't feel particularly enamored in responding. It's like, yeah, screw you, whatever.
Going back to what you said about people weren't really challenging the rum world as much back then. Do you mean in terms of like, I mean, obviously now you see a lot of people challenging things in terms of transparency and things like that. Is that kind of what you're referring to?
Yeah, I think so. There was, I could, if I said the word sugar in rum, or said that little phrase, there's so many ways that I can approach that now from the Pete in 2022. I have a sense of realism about what people respond to in the main. The world of rum, world of any spirits is kind of triangular in terms of the geeky people at the top of the pyramid that represent that really care about it, the passionate people, but represent the sum total of fuck all in terms of volume sales.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And the people at the bottom end of the pyramid are the Malibu and pineapple drinkers or whatever, and they don't. Yeah, shit. They're just out there to get toasted, and in between, everything in between, there's those levels of caring, and and we want the people at the top to sort of to drag others up. We want to bring people on,
right?
But this knowing to say, it's kind of going back to that thing, is knowing what to say. So there was a period of time when, when the sugar reveals were going on, that I fell out of love with rum quite heavily, and it felt like the whole world was lying to us. When you sort of dig just a little bit down, you're like, this is really bad. It sounds like everyone's dosing their products and like but of course this is only from the perspective of what at the time and the brands that you kind of work with. And then actually it didn't take too long to realize that actually when you dig past, then there's a whole world of authentic rum producers out there that have been making rum culture, their country for hundreds of years. And of course, they don't need to bugger around with their products. They know how to make great rum. They know what it is, and they just make what they make. From a personal point of view, I've drunk stacks of Diplomatic Reserve Exclusiva in my life. Genuinely, I don't mind admitting to it. I can't drink more than a glass of it now, but it's like, at the time it was great. It is what it, it is. And there's a reason that they're in how many 100 countries around the world leading with a particular expression, because we understand people. And the more time I spend working with brands, the more that my perspective, whatever I say, is being drawn to that side of it. I look from the other side of the bar, or from the retailer side of it, and I always wanted to be the person on the consumer side of the bar. That's always where I wanted my perspective of the rum world to be. But the last 2 years, particularly because of everything that's happened, because what I was doing before wasn't available to be out in bars doing tastings and stuff, you sort of forces you to change, and just your relationship with the brands that you work with, you look at it differently, and then there's a sense of realism. It's like, what, great, yeah, fine, this is kind of where we are, and spice rum's running rampant, and everyone's calling spice rum when I wish they'd just call it a spirit drink. But but there's a sense of realism to this whole thing. It's like, okay, well, maybe we'll be able to, maybe we can convert some of those spice rum drinkers to actual rum down the line, and and so I don't know, I can circle around from different angles, and I have been called the Switzerland of rum on more than one occasion, because I'm so neutral, more neutral than I really should be. I know that there are more people. I know there are more people out there right now that are really into quality rum, and they know the markers of quality rum, and there are folks that are relatively new to the rum world that can miss out all the hard yards of drinking all the bullshit and just go straight to the good stuff. You know what? And you go like, and there's a bit of me going like, well, they should damn well do their hard yards and know what crap rum tastes like before they can earn the right to drink good shit. But then you're like, well, why waste your time drinking crap spirits? Like, if you know how to get to the good stuff, it's like, just crack on in, and so that's where I think anyone joining the rum world right now is in a much better place. And so I stopped blogging a while ago. I mean, I don't mind admitting it. I get my jollies really from during lockdown. We were doing online stuff, and you have time, so you start doing Instagram lives or whatever you do. And I was doing some rum club things where we're sort of selling rum sets via the rum bars near us and hosting online stuff, and it's great fun. But I really get my jollies being out in amongst real people in a bar doing a rum club or doing bar training or whatever it might be, and that's kind of cool. And there is there's a great deal of apathy out there, and there's a great deal of people out there that really still. You think they'll know, they should know, but they really don't. You can spend your entire life. You always think that you're always going to keep up in the audience, but no, there's a basic level of education that you just have to keep hammering home to people, because there's a whole bunch of people come into the category. I mean, like, face it, like how many, like every day, how many people turn 18, like, or 21 in the case of America, they can legally drink, and so you've always got waves of people come into the category. Right. I feel like it's easier to try and grab the low hanging fruit to start with and get the people that are just coming to it, and try and sort of shape them if you can. And it's about balancing the wording without getting too ranty. I mean, I carry a soapbox around with me from time to time. So, if you get when you're doing a rum club and you get some people that are really passionate. I love the best rum clubs when people ask questions or start a challenge back or whatever. This is fantastic, because you just, brilliant. Right. We can have a conversation about rum. You ask me anything, go on, whatever like that, Then I go the other time you sit there and there's like a mute audience and you're like, I'm not either. I'm not connecting with them, or I've pitched it too high, or I've blown their minds, or quite frankly, they couldn't give a shit. And I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, you kind of went through this a little bit already, but I wanted to kind of put it into the lens a little bit more of you being also a brand ambassador yourself. So flash forward from the Floating Rum Shack starting in 2008, almost a decade, right? And you're now the UK brand ambassador for Foursquare Rum. Yeah. How first of all, I guess, how did that come about? And then,
oh my God.
Have you noticed between then and now a difference in how it's been received over there as one of the pinnacles of rum? You mentioned, certain brands are kind of at the high point there. So are the challenges still the same?
Oh, I'll give the honest answer and give the slightly bigging myself up answer. We got I think the honest truth is that a little bit of both. So you have a situation where I jumped out of full-time regular 9 to 5 work, pension, medical, and all the rest of it to go full-time rum, because I felt like if I didn't do it, I was never going to get the opportunity to, and life allowed the opportunity to do it, if I'm honest. I had a little bit of a financial safety net. A couple of years of it going like that. We've moved to the South Coast. I've known Richard Seal for, I don't know, 2000. I suppose I met him probably for the first time 2009, sort of knew him better 2010. And he probably thought I was an arsehole back then, just like some blogger trying to, or so it, but you come to meet people over time enough. And I realized part of the reason you want to stop kind of working full time is because you hit a glass ceiling in terms of availability of time. Sure. There is only so much time. Not a day of holiday wasn't used for the rum world. Begging an hour. Can I finish an hour early just so I can go into London for a masterclass or whatever? Right. I'll work Saturday morning if you let me off on Friday afternoon. And you saw you begging and borrowing that. But so once you become free, then people approach you because they know you've got time to do projects. And it's a hard one because there's lots of people that would like to get into it, but there's kind of unless you have a full plan. I left it without much of a plan. I think there was a combination. Richard Seal's brand had, Foursquare had built to the point where it was building momentum. And Richard has, the more you get, when you really get to know him, you know that he is thinking so far in advance. He doesn't give a, like the next 6 months is kind of irrelevant. Next year, 2 year, 5. It's a long-term plan.
I feel like you have to be a long-term thinker to really thrive as a distillery. And
you have to. But it's always it's about the concept of where he wants to be. So it was. I think the honest truth is it's an experiment. I think I was the first person that out. And it's not like I'm an employee of the company. It's on a consultancy kind of that kind of basis. But it's the first person he sort of contracted directly out of Barbados with a view to, like, if the model works, then that would be expanded to other places around the world. And all these years later, he hasn't let me go yet, and equally hasn't employed other people yet. So I don't know. But then
must be working.
It isn't. And it's a few, and I'm like so. But I hold no. I think we've done a lot of work getting the word out in the UK. It's not like it's a full-time role; it's part-time. There's more we could do within the bounds. And it was very much for doing training. So I don't know, like this, even the definition of what a brand ambassador is, to me, has changed over the last few years because for all manner of reasons, actually, to be fair. I think, brand ambassadors at one point were people that went out and got people drunk in a friendly kind of way to kind of make them think better of the brand, as well as doing some education. Well, that's obviously changed a lot for the right reasons as well. But I think it's the service combination. He wants someone who kind of has aligned in terms of the view. And we take that passion on to bars, and I have to work with the importers and distributors here in the UK. And we go and do trainings and stuff. Richard Seal's rums have been getting better and better over time. Interviews that you do with Richard puts the brand in front of a bigger audience, and so lots of the brand has been getting in front of more people. Richard Seal is completely right when he says that he doesn't spend massive amounts of marketing. Okay. He just talks about rum. Mm-hmm. And he'll spend a lot of money to take himself to New Orleans or to New York or London, wherever he might be.
Speaking of websites, to talk about there's not even a Foursquare website.
Oh my God.
I complain about it all the time.
We really need a Foursquare website. Oh God. I mean, I've said we need a Foursquare. But it's like, but no. Like, let's have a source of information, but, is correct and approved, because just because it's on the internet doesn't mean to say it's true.
Thank you. I can't remember. We were recording an episode recently or something, and I had been, I wanted to look up a Foursquare release to, like, double check some information just to make sure I had it right. And I was like, damn it. I'm going to like 3 different blogs and they're all telling me slightly different information. And I was like, this is where the Foursquare website needs to come in.
Because people look at the bullshit article and then just repeat it. It's like, it just keeps rolling on. It's like, oh, please, don't get me wrong, right? Like, Richard, if you're listening, like, we talked about this. Christian wants it. Yeah, we want a point of reference. It'd be amazing if we could. Maybe we'll persuade him in due course. Yes. It's like he's it seems to be working for him at the moment. Without, and so like. You can't argue, there's nothing the guy does that isn't working for him. So you can't say he's been daft, because he really isn't, But we're in a position where we've got, it's nice to have. I value the role in the UK. It gets me the opportunity to travel around and to meet people on behalf of the brand. Mm-hmm. My conversation about elevating how we talk about rum in general aligns perfectly. He's given me the opportunity to go out and to bang on about why rum is quality, why we need to change the language around rum, all these things. It's like I'm being paid to do what I want to do. It's wonderful, and I very, very grateful for the support he's given me over the years, and hopefully this will continue. I mean, if it gets to the point where he wants someone full time, well, I suspect he'll need someone younger and degree more energy, and probably like a few stone lighter. But it's hey,
don't sell yourself short. I love the energy you brought to the podcast so far. It's after 10 o'clock over there. You've had some rum already. You're doing great. I think that's a good point, though. I feel like the forward-thinking brands are the ones that are out there doing as much education for the category as they are for their own brand.
You have to. You've got to. We've got to bring everyone on. It doesn't matter how big you are. And I think there's a lot of you can. It depends where you want to spend your money. It's like I think like when you follow Foursquare, you follow Richard, you can see there's a lot of investment in kit and equipment and things at the distillery, building for a genuine future. The Masala cast that was on Facebook earlier today, I saw, like, we're not going to see anything out of them for a long, long time yet, long time. And you could spend money on a global PR agency and a marketing campaign, but that's of the moment, and things like that. Marketing campaigns get forgotten just as quickly as they're discovered. And but it's a balance. I mean, it's a balance. Some of the things that Appleton do, some of the things that Mount Gay do, some I look at it and go, that's great stuff. The things that come out of the Martinique or whatever, there's some great stuff going on there. But it's very easy to spend money. Spending money with a good return on money, on your investment is more important. And this is where Pete has gone from being a hobbyist rum blogger to someone doing training, loosely a brand ambassador, more like a brand manager in thinking now. It's like, how do we get where do we get on investment? Because we could be at every rum festival. We could, I could be at every tiny little rum festival across the UK every weekend doing something, and it costs a fortune. Right. But what are we targeting? What are we trying to do? Be realistic about the size of the brand. And so actually it's funny how things change. And I don't know whether this is a good thing or not, but it's definitely an education, and I appreciate the relationships I have with like the importers distributors at Marussia and also at Atom as well, because the Foursquare is one brand and then the independent bottlers are a completely kind of different kind of brand as well, right. But it's still, through all of that, I'm still the person who infuses to rum. And part of the thing I'm doing is infusing to the people at Marussia and at Atom about rum, because some folks are just have a day job, they happen to be working in the booze world, but they're not as knowledgeable about, we find that the world of rum is the most misunderstood category, I reckon, all over. You'll get people who go, I'm very confident on whiskey or whatever, and but they start to fall apart on rum, and it gets a bit vague. And you'll comment, I was like, I listened to Carstens and about. He's saying about, people, the independent bottlers in the whiskey world. Well, they know about whiskey, and I go like, and he made the joke about like, what's coming. Yes, they do know about, but the thing I can say is that those people there going like, we'll get this from Panama, we'll get this from Nicaragua, or we'll get it from that, and they kind of approaching it. Careful what I say at this point, but like they're approaching it from the degrees of authenticity, kind of like, we from the rum world, we go, well, I kind of instinctually understand that Hamden comes with more of a cachet than Nicaragua.
Right. Say it just say it quietly.
If you whisper it, it's better. But then people are going like, but you can, but from an indie point of view, I've been drinking some rum today from Guatemala, and it's lovely. A single cask from there. It's like some of these ones, outside of the Solera system, untouched. Just a nice aged expression of rum from there. It's perfect. So how it's produced. So there's sort of ups and downs on it. I do find that with whiskey people kind of instinctively understand rum better
than some people coming from other categories. But you know, but say everyone in the UK seems to be all about whiskey, and I know it's probably the same. Like in America, everyone's about bourbon.
I'm in Tennessee,
yeah.
It's
bourbon is big.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
But you know, so we educating. Oh my God, that's all it is. It's just education. You know, we're just helping people to understand it. Yeah. You know, if it tastes like vanilla and full of sugar, well, it's probably not the best rum in the world. You know, let's kind of start from that standpoint. You know.
Well, and you mentioned independent bottlers a little bit. So I kind of to fill out the rest of your background, if you will, or your positions and what you do. Unlike with Foursquare, you're also involved with That Boutique-y Rum Company, but you actually, I believe, help to select many of the rums that they release. So I imagine that's quite a different gig. And you mentioned how brand ambassador is really not a good title. And I imagine in these two ways, you're technically a brand ambassador for both of them, but they're very different. So how do those two roles kind of compare?
Yeah, well, this is again, this is the thing. So it's one of those the sort of bonuses of meeting people and just, you know, you have to be out there. You have to put yourself in front of people. You have to be relevant. And sometimes you got to wonder, like, you know, like people introducing you like, oh, I'm all-round rum expert, Peter Holland. I go like, well, who the fuck that guy is? Like, it doesn't sound like me anyway. But like, you know, you meet people, but so, you know, one relationship leads to that guy having a conversation with somebody else, and you get a call from that other person going like, well, we're thinking about starting a boutique-y rum company. You know, or didn't even say that. He goes like, what are you doing next Wednesday? Do you want to meet us in town for a drink? So you jump on the train
whiskey, right?
You know, yeah, with a Atom, and you sort of go up and you meet Van Nelson, and you're saying, well, we've got this plan coming, and you know, before you say anything, you're like, please, whatever's coming now, you kind of keep it to yourself, kind of thing. But we're thinking of launching that boutique whiskey company. Has just coming up on its 10th birthday this coming, you know, in a few months' time. So they sort of engaged a few days a month just to kind of help bounce ideas off or to cast selection or like, you know, and he actually at the end of the kind of meeting got a gentleman's agreement to proceed, and he gave me a bag of rum samples from Main Rum and go like, tell me why I wouldn't bottle all of these. Not like why, you know, it's like, you know, pick the good ones, but why wouldn't I bottle all of them kind of thing? And so you sort of go through, and so you've got like, you know, you got 3 from Panama, you know, and then you're like, well, I like this one, but these 2, I don't like the balance. And in hindsight, a few years later, it could be that actually that it might be that they just needed water and time. And they might have opened up a little bit. You know, this thing about sort of dealing with car samples is interesting. You know, a lot of them are too tight as they come to you. You need a smidge of water and a little bit of time to allow them to open. You know, but you get that. And so, you know, we're bouncing around. We bring some other ones to it. Like, you know, Orizinho, Madeira was like one that we could bring to the table before pre-launch, you know, because of relationships and stuff. So it wasn't, you know, I didn't want, if I was going to be involved with anything, you don't want an independent bottle up brand to be just a me too, like everyone else. Yeah. You want them to have the sense of a USP in the market. Yeah, and it needs to stand out for a reason. So we were able to bring some things in, and we didn't bottle, you know, didn't launch with everything. We launched with 13. Very weird. I think it was 8 on the night, and then a following 7. But you know, like the company can move. Atom can move really quick when they want to and stuff. Anyway, they launched, but at launch they said like, do you want to, you know, have you got any more time a month to give us from a brand ambassador point of view, kind of thing? So, oh, this is great. You know, if you want to use me, because literally they'd taken me to BCB for the first time in Berlin. I'd never been before, always wanted to go, but like the week before we launched, they took me to Berlin and go like, fantastic. People want to take me to other countries. Brilliant. You know, this is like, yeah, here we go. You know, this is brilliant. And it was quite cool. It didn't quite work out the way we thought. There wasn't going to be quite as many global events as we're going on. I did travel. I presented rum in Singapore. And to places and you know, Whiskey Club there, that was quite cool, as well as Kuala Lumpur and places. You know, we've done stuff that the view at the moment is very much a little different at the moment particularly within the company. But you're still, most of what I do, if I tell you what I've done the last, like today, has been project work based on the launch for the next themed launch. We do quarterly releases. So on Friday, which obviously is going to be way before this actually goes live, but like, you know, at the end of May, Q2 launch is going to go out. That's going to be wonderful. But we're starting to put together the sales sheets and things for the Q3 launch, which will be the beginning of September, and we're already planning for rums for Q4 and Q1 and Q2 in 2023. So you end up with a very long-term view of the boring elements of like conversations going like, we can't get glass, you know, or there's a delay on supplying glass and things, very mundane stuff. but you're also planning how you can group things together and what the story we're going to use to do it. So today has been writing up the sales sheets to go ready to get to present to the sales team, putting together the script that we're going to use that my whiskey counterpart and I will be running through, because we always launch the whiskeys and rums together. So we have a little script that we're going to then record the script, and we'll end up with this little sort of 50 minutes to an hour compressed of him and I chatting about the rums and the whiskies, so that then the sales team can watch it, or the importers can watch it, or around the world, what if they want to, if they then get a little snippet of these rums. And as a consequence, I had to drink, say, like 5 rum samples and do some tasting notes before I went live today. So if I am a little bit more loquacious, then that's probably why.
Bonus points for saying loquacious during the interview. I have to ask, do you ever get any input into the artwork on the labels?
So if someone wants to complain, I'll just say no. But the truth of it is that when the brand launched, nothing. I wasn't really involved with it at all at that point. That was Ben was doing it, and then it sort of changed. And some of them were like Adam Wyatt's done just a crazy. The Novo Fogo is still one of my favorite, kind of like salsa dancing on the front kind of thing. In the modern time, I would say the last year or so, I pretty much had exclusive. Kind of, they are my ideas that kind of find their way to the labels. So things have changed around. So I have a lot more. So whereas before I was just on the outside, now I am Boutique-y Rum, like, you know, and I work with the team. But like it's kind of like they sort of turn around and go like, well, what ABV are we going to do? Or what are we, you know, do you want to do that? Which ones are we going to choose? And so these are my choices. And whether that comes over or not, I don't know. I mean, it is still a team, and hopefully I'm being checks and balance and stuff like that. But, you know, I want the rums to tell a story, and I want them to not just be the Me Too's kind of releases that you could get from main rum. I want them to have some other elements of it, to bring in the bottlings when we've gone direct to producers, and it is nice. Like say Foursquare is a proper brand. It might not be as big as some by the brand's own admissions, but it is a commercial brand that's always available. Dawley's, I mean. Whereas the indie stuff, we're talking like a few hundred bottles, and that's it. Even the smallest. I mean, the Foursquare Sovereignty that will be launching eventually, finally in the UK. It's only 1,200 bottles for the UK. Yeah, but like Boutique, we're like a third of that, before we even,
right.
And that's globally. So we're small fry in many respects,
Recently, we've seen more distilleries, creating and investing in their own house brands. Some cases, there have been ones of distilleries backing off of bulk rum sales and things like that. Well, at the same time, we've also had it kind of seems like there's a new IB every month. Especially in places outside the EU and the UK, where you haven't seen them as much in the past. We're seeing a lot more of them. And you've had this kind of experience now representing both, distilleries like Foursquare, and you have the IB side of things with That Boutique-y Rum Company. And I just wanted to kind of get your take on where do you think IBs are going from here? And you just spoke to the idea of not wanting to be a Me Too release. And I think that gets harder and harder with more and more companies getting into it. So what do you see that separates a release from being, just another one that blends in with everything? And what does kind of the future look like for the IB landscape?
So, you know what? I think there are people that have been doing it for a long time. Carson's interview, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, he would know. He's been there right all that time. Yeah. And even a slight diversion, but even Sheer, you say I can't say Dutch appropriately.
I can't either, and my ancestors are Dutch, and I can't do it. So
I haven't got enough phlegm. My relationship with them, I've seen my observations of them. They've changed a lot over the last little while. They've been brought into the limelight, whereas they were very happy to be completely hidden, right, unmentioned, unless you knew. If you knew, you knew. Right. But there is they are operating under a new sort of commercial vibe. And the way they want to get out there. You know what? There are some really good people doing really good things for rum. You've interviewed a few of them from yourselves. And there are people out there that just want to invest to make a buck. Yeah. I wouldn't go as far as to call them chancers, but maybe I just call them chancers. I don't know. It's like, and they don't have the interest of the category, the best interest of the category at heart. They just want to make a return on their investment. You know what? And that's business. We're not running a charity. We are here to make money in general. Sheer make it very easy. Main Rum makes it very easy. All you need is money. Now, and in the modern era, there's plenty of investors that are out there that've got money who just like, you want 100,000? Yeah, we'll lend you 100,000 so we can, but I expect a certain return on my investment within 2 years or whatever, and that situation is not complicated. And so if you want to get into it, it's very easy to do it. Make it very, very easy to put together a blend, to put together get together the single cask. The only pressure you have on the modern era is glass, just access a little bit of glass. But being that, that's the small fry. You can go. It's like making a gin brand. You can start a gin brand very quickly. Buy your neutral spirit, flavor it. Right. Sell it, you can, and it's the same with spiced rum, and it's the same with an independent bottler. You can put together that as long as you got your capital in place, because everyone forgets about taxes, duty and stuff like that, But as long as you got your money in place to pay it, it's very quick to get going. And if you can do it with the right intentions, it's okay. But you can say, so when I say me too, Sheer have a bunch of marks Main Rum have a bunch of marks, that come out regularly that, and they're safe. They're easy. Something from Demerara, distillers, something from Worthy Park, something from Barbados, from Foursquare. These are all the safe buys, safe sells. People are going to want them. People getting into the rum world. Indie bottlers, I know, but I think before I joined the company, I think I probably only ever bought like one or two indie bottles, because I only ever bought mainstream, mostly because I was poor. I still am for them. I haven't got the money to spend on, but it's I didn't spend a lot of money on indie, and I got, or Veliers, and dependent bottlers, but they didn't sort of excite me because they were very generic in their presentation. There's lots of brands that are very dull. They're just plain label, blah blah. There's nothing. It didn't kind of excite. Boutique-y does, kind of like love it or hate
label.
it. Love it or hate it, and you get people telling you to your face they absolutely hate it, and you're being a dick for taking it all so lightheartedly. But you know what? That absolutely suits me. I get really I can be very neutral, but I do get very stroppy when people tell me I can't do something. And you can't drink rum like that. You can't put Dawley's 14 in a Sazerac. Like you fucking watch me, mate. I'm going to do it twice now just to piss you off.
Dawley's 14 in a Sazerac.
Yeah, well, that style of cocktail is actually it worked. My tip, I think it works beautifully. That style of cocktail, So I think we want to bring it on. So like Velier, I hold in gold standard. I think Velier have done so much for the rum world, and you know what? They weren't doing it a few years ago, but now they're doing it, and they really have brought the rum world on leaps and bounds. And that's what I would, if I could have Boutique-y anywhere near them, that would be amazing. But what can I do instead? So we can get some of our rums that are sure sells by we go to Main Rum stuff. But the bottlings that we've had 3 bottlings from Madeira now. Three companies from Madeira. I've had Isan, we've had Novo Fogo. We've got a whole bunch of craft distilleries around the UK, Ninefold, J. Gow, Green Turns.
Australia
we've gone to
releases
people
from Boutique-y as
Blackgate.
well that I don't see from other bottlers.
might be more coming as well. You never know. Who knows what the next few months might bring. It's like, and so that gives me the most amount of passion. It's a lot harder to do that. Eric Kay will tell you, like it's a lot harder to buy and bring a few barrels across borders. That's expensive. It's challenging. It comes with all manner of other ball ache. Going to someone like Main Rum that bulk logistics from the Caribbean, they centralize, they bring it over, they make it easy. You don't have to deal with shipping containers, container loads, So Atom are our big company. Atom own Boutique-y Rum Company. They own whiskey, gin, rum bullion, master and malt. It's a surprisingly large company, but it comes with a team of people that deal with the logistics and import export, and so they have the ability to be able to do it. So as long as that remains, then we can go direct. And sometimes when you go direct, of course, you cut out the middleman, you save a butt. And I'm not afraid of bringing like unaged Orozinho to market, even though it's a challenging sell. And so, I think we're covering a lot of ground here. Hopefully we're keeping on track. The easy thing about just putting Foursquare, Worthy Park, Demerara in a bottle is that you don't need to worry about education so much on it. You can create a brand and you can get it into a retail operation. It just kind of, as long as it looks appropriate, we buy with our eyes, it will sell. Having as an independent bottler, if you do bring out Isan, like a red cane single variety of sugarcane juice rum, that takes selling to sell it. You have to educate to sell it. No one's just in their right mind's going to pick that up without knowing a little bit about what to expect or something. You might get a bit of a chance, but when the price point's actually kind of not too bad, then I think people will do it. So there's that trust. So if I can go out, if I can be kind of like hold hands, inspire confidence in find ways of getting people to try it. Like I did a rum club, but there's a few rum bars in the UK that are really good. I did a boutique rum club a few weeks ago. The month before that, I did a Foursquare one. It's like they're sick of seeing my face at the bar. It's like, it's kind of weird, but you go there, you hang around in the industry, you become somebody, hopefully that some people will trust. So if you say, like, I've got this and I think it's good, and I'm not just turning up because I'm not just a salesperson and this is what I'm targeted to sell, it's like, no, I like this. I wouldn't, if I didn't like either of those brands, I wouldn't work with them. Like, I need a buck, but I'm not that desperate. There are plenty of rum brands out there I would not be seen dead with. And I'm definitely not had enough rum today to start naming names on a public forum.
We want the list.
However, the night is still young. So,
But before we move on to some other things, one more thing about Boutique-y that I wanted to mention is that they put out rums in 50 centiliter or 500 milliliter bottles. I love that idea, especially for rare and limited rums and for more expensive rums. I do. I wish others did that too, because most of the time, for a lot of those, I really just want to experience a rum, and, that amount is plenty for me. And so I wanted to ask you if you were involved in that choice. It sounds like you were.
No, what I'd like, you were the first person to say, oh, it's great. And most people go like, God, why isn't there a full-size bottle, you assholes? Like, I get that
I'll
so much.
I'll plus one everything John just said, by the way. So that's
okay,
at least
so
two.
There's two of us.
I'm in agreement.
Yeah.
Cool, brilliant. Well, that's two. That's a nice one. You've doubled my enjoyment for the night already. No, it's so obviously we have 70 CL is the default in Europe.
Right.
Yep.
So 50 CL was always a bit of an iffy thing. It's a hang up from the whiskey days. I've never got a sensible answer for it. I think the reality of it is that if I look at it from a sort of commercial point of view, if you bottle 50 centiliter, you'll get more bottles out of a cask.
Exactly.
At a slightly better part price. Yeah, the unit price will come down.
Right.
There's still the fixed cost of glass and bottling line, which 70 to 50 is not a lot of difference in glass. The bottling line cost is going to be the same, but you can get more bottles and you can get it to more people. So I think when it is specialist, you don't need it. It's not like we're ever going to sell any of these in a 3-liter handle. That's not what we're selling our rum in. We're not selling that kind of rum. So it makes sense to have small sample ones. And like we did very briefly, Boutique-y were kind of in America, and hopefully the whiskey is going to be back, in a big way. I think hopefully be back. So
we'd love some of the rum over here too.
Heck yeah.
So, some of the rum got there. We better not go into how some of the rum gets over. Smuggler's Cove has a very impressive selection of stuff they shouldn't have, obviously. Bleep that out. Just bleep that out. I didn't say that. No, it's like, so of course there was a demand for 750, and then like the bottles that were going to the US were actually 375s. Like, so it's like, that's crazy small. I mean, like, oh my God. I mean, that's like sample size bottle. We're going to do that in a lunchtime kind of thing.
I don't mind the 375s either. I remember when Stolen Overproof was out over here and they were in the 375. I love being able, I know you're getting less, but being able to buy a smaller amount at a smaller price, especially if you're trying something new, like a limited release. Yes. To me, there's a lot of value in that.
Or Kohana that's doing that, and then I can buy different types of the cane that they're doing in 375s and then compare and contrast. I love that idea, and I think there should be more of it, whether it's the 500 milliliters or the 375, whatever works. But I do love the idea of, like you said, you're stretching a little bit of what's in the cask, getting it out to more people. Hopefully your price point's a little bit better. I feel like it makes sense. Yeah.
Your point on the Kohana is exactly, you know what? I love that idea of comparing and contrasting, because there's been a lot of stuff, and I guess this is the bit that Verlier with their Great Small Bottle kind of initiative is perfect, because actually there's a bunch of like kind of some of these high ester marks or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm too old. I'm not going to drink a bottle of DOK. Right. Like, not a full size bottle. I value my internals too much to drink large amounts of that stuff. I only need like 100 mil or 200 mil, I want references because, I'm going to use it, or when I'm playing around. I don't need full size bottles. Anyone who's drinking DOK by like full size bottles and multiples, dude, seriously, really, check your internals, man. You're not indestructive.
The true maniacs.
I've been there and done it. Don't get me wrong. I've had some of the worst
fans out there.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Going over to education a little bit, you've written and spoken a lot about sort of the pitfalls of understanding rum, from category classification systems to transparency and all of that stuff. If you could wave a magic wand and make anything you want happen with how rum is labeled or categorized or anything like that, what would you change right now?
I think the I would try and get away from, you know what, it doesn't matter whether regular folks, consumers use white, gold, and dark particularly. But what I wish I could get rid of is the higher level in the industry, the distributors just default into it, because shit trickles downhill. You know, they kind of people go like, we need a gold rum. You know, what do you mean a gold? You know, we need, you know, and the industry is, you know, you have that thing like, you know, you kind of, when you get to a certain level of like spirits, people talk about white spirits or dark spirits, like gin, vodka on one side and whiskey and stuff on the other. And you kind of, you have a top level, and that's okay, do that. But then as you get down, it's like, well, like, why are we dumbing down rum from the very top of the distribution chain?
Right.
You know, like brands don't want to do it. Like, you know, Foursquare doesn't write gold rum on their bottle. And yet you'll get to someone like a major distributor in the UK, and they sort of artificially add in, oh, this daughter's 5-year-old gold rum. And so they sort of, you know, if I could change it, that would be it. I don't mind it if someone who's just come into rum going like, I like dark rum. You know, well, okay, well, that's fine. We can have a conversation around that. But it's the blind sort of willingness of, they just don't want to change anything at the top. And that's going to be the real big hurdle. You know, I mean, like, you know, I love the Gargano classification. I think it's really awesome. I like it, gives me lots to talk about. And let's face it, if the whole world accepted it and took it on, I wouldn't have anything to talk about. So, you know, I need a degree of ignorance in order to keep earning money. But they don't want to. You know, some will pay lip service to it, you know. And the reason I say that, the reason I love it, because one is because I'm agreeing with it. Richard Seal, like, was the one who validated it with Luca. He was the one who pushed on it. I become an acolyte in that regard. But it makes sense. You know, it's like, I've got my corridor. I say this in all the times. I apologize to anyone who's heard me say it. But if I was to take you out to my hallway just over there are approximately 500 bottles of rum on shelving down there. And lots of it, there's no bad rum there. I've got a bottle of Captain Morgan Cannon Blast just for a joke as much as anything, you know,
just for fun.
It came with a UV light because it's like dark kind of thing, which is just like, yeah. But
why wouldn't you throw in a UV light?
But there's nothing. But there's the vast majority out there is not what I'm interested in. You know, if I wanted something, you can use the Gargano classification to make a far more meaningful collection of rum that takes you on a journey of rum. And so it's that mindset that I take when I go to bars. When you go into people, it's like, you can have a rum bar that's got 500 marks of rum from Puerto Rico, Nicaragua, and Panama, and Dominican Republic, and you haven't really got a lot of variation in actual, the core sort of characteristics of the rum. Right. You know, you could easily chop that down to a few bottles and then pick up rums from other places, and you then get the diversity with it. And if you get that, if you reach the point where you kind of understand that, then I think you understand rum.
Yeah.
Because you understand that there is, I mean, this is the nice thing about being with the indie bottler, right? So like, you know, one of the fastest selling rums we had, we launched with a Belize rum, and it sold really, really fast. And I think the realism is that it just, you know, it was an evocative location. People go there on holiday all the time. They know it. They're familiar with it, but it's easy drinking. It's not a challenge, you know, and you can drink one and you can go back for a second. And that's kind of where that sort of lighter style of distillation plays into no challenge, you know, it's not, and it's safer. It's a little easier. You can gift it with less thing, you know, no one's going to gift a bottle of like Hamden Sea Diamond H. Right. Like, and you know, unless you really know that person,
unless they're buying me a gift,
you have to really know it, you know, so there's a degrees of risk. And so, but you know, if you're building that selection, you're building a collection on the back bar, you're building it, you know, in a portfolio or in your own collection. These are the things you haven't got a collection unless you've really got, you know, a sort of sense of diversity with it. And so it's kind of, it makes sense to kind of get it. And until somebody comes up with a better selection, anyway, I mean, and so it's Gargano and regionality. It's a combination of both for me.
Why do you think that distributors are so resistant to that change in the first place? I mean, do you have a theory?
They don't care. They don't care enough.
So it's just laziness.
Yeah, honestly, I think it is. It's because the people in the right place actually don't care enough. Because, I mean, so if you look at, it's not to the level of anyone else, but you look at what the Whiskey Exchange with Dawn, they put in, they keep their gold dark selection. You can go to the gold selection of rum, but then there's a different layer that if you are looking for, you know, pot still or whatever, of course, because they're a retailer, because at the time, specialty brands, specialty drinks were linked before the sale, because they represented Diplomatico and things, you have to find a space. So in addition to the Gargano, you then kind of include a few other little sort of catch-alls. So rums in that Sweden style are able to fit within. But that's all right, because people are looking, you know, I get this a bunch. If you're looking for a spice rum, and the brand doesn't market itself as spice rum, but it is, well, then you're missing a trick of a sale. You have to categorize yourself so appropriately so people looking for you can find you. If you don't, you really are missing rule one, aren't you? You know,
Those color-based categories are so ingrained in casual consumer knowledge too.
Yeah,
they think, oh, the types of rum. I know there's white rum and there's dark rum.
and you know what? And I get it. It's only, and it is when you drill down that you start to you
right.
with a bit of knowledge and you drill down, you undermine it.
Yeah,
you know, like
right.
the Dawley's 3 was water white at one point. Now it's like pale gold. But like, you know, what are we asking for? And so there's about function, you know, and say Diplomatica with the 6-year-old white, and now it's the Planas kind of thing. You know, it's like you've got these age expressions that color strips are completely like you blow people's minds. Why would you do that? No one's going to do that in whiskey, are they? Yeah, like, you know, Rum World is just so unique.
Someone sent me, I forget which company it was, but it was a tequila brand that is selling an aged and filtered tequila, which I didn't realize. I don't know if that's a prominent thing in tequila. I'm a tequila novice, but my understanding was that's not a common practice. And it was being kind of
interesting.
Touted in marketing language as like being even more premium because, and I forget what the brand was, but I remember seeing it being like, huh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Although, you know, another category dealing with its own additive controversies as well, trying to borrow more from rum. So,
oh God, you know what, the bit that worries me with that one, I'm sort of jumping ahead to somebody else's category, but they're going to got something that's going to be overaged. So all that vibrancy of a nice, peppery, spicy agave is going to be lost to time in barrel, and then it's going to be color filtered. It's going to be neutral as fuck, isn't it? Let's face it. Like, you know, I've jumped ahead to what I've no idea what it tastes like. You know, a nice reposado, wonderful. You know, an aged and color filtered. Oh God, that's going to be neutral. That's dumbing down drinking. Like, and there's so many brands that do across all the categories that dumbing down of drinking just to make it seem, you know. And this is it's a marketing thing. You're trying to appeal to a wider demographic. I don't know. There are all manner of levels, but you know, I think we can do a lot from the top. It will trickle down more easily if people at the top level make some fundamental changes.
So, Peter, I wanted to ask you if you have some kind of tips. I actually, I guess I need your help a little bit because I haven't even told Will this yet, but I had a few people over this weekend, and we broke out some of my rum collection. And I tried to, as they were rum novices, and I'm trying to, you know, put forward all these interesting things that I love about rum and get it over to them to make, you know, help them get it. And I failed miserably at this. And, you know, a lot of times, and then I look back and I'm like, well, I'm an idiot because I'm giving them, you know, like 59 ABV or 63 ABV rums neat. Yeah. And like, I don't quite know how to pull my own excitement out of it enough and give to other people what they need to try to see the light. So I wanted to ask you, as an educator and a person who does this a lot, what are some tips that you could give me that would help me out?
Oh man, so you know what? It's that reading the room thing is very much there. And so if people are already drinking spirits, then that's okay. Like you say, you can pull out the higher proof stuff. You know, there are times when you pull out something that's 60% ABV, and you see the look of fear on people's faces, and they're terrified to put it in their mouths. And yet, like, you know what? And again, I make light of this when I do the sort of chats and stuff. I mean, I don't get out of bed for anything less than 46%. I've drunk stuff straight off the still. You know, it's like 96% doesn't worry me particularly. It's a bit warm in the mouth, but you know, hey, you gotta go for it. You know,
notice a slight tingle.
To do a 3 ounce of heat. So if people are starting, you know, and I kind of listen. My daughter's teacher. It's slightly different. She goes, yeah, we had that, how it came out of the school gate was like, oh, yeah, I work in the rum world. Oh, I love rum. She says, I really like spice rum. And you're like, okay, right. But I've learned something from there. Mm-hmm. So, you know, so if like, you know, if we send her a Christmas bottle or whatever, you know, Christmas present by Rebecca, it'll be a spice rum, you know, like we'll keep it simple, whatever like that. But like, you know, we have friends who are kind of, you know, oh, I've got plenty of bottles of spice rum I can get rid of, you know, as well. She definitely won't be listening. So it's reading that room. It's what people are after. If people are drinking mixed drinks, well, then again, there's no point in going high. You know, if their default is to have it over ice, then like, you know, then they're probably in a much early stages of their journey kind of thing. I'm lucky now that when we have folks around, I don't have newbies so very often around the house. But you know, I want people to be comfortable. I want them to feel like that however they're enjoying it in the first place is absolutely fine. Mm. That's very important. I think that the degree of trust. I mean, like, you know, I don't mind. I'll say it out loud. When Richard talks about his rums. He doesn't particularly like people adding water to his rums because he's already done the hard work of blending and setting the ABV and stuff. But, between Richard and I, we don't agree on absolutely everything. It's like, if it makes someone happy to have it over ice or with a splash of water, you know what, knock yourself out because you need to be happy with it. Yeah. So I guess body language, like if their eyes are starting to glaze over, shut the fuck up. Like, they really don't care whether it's the 2-day fermentation or a week, and did they give a shit to start? Like who brings that sort of thing up? Monster, who starts those conversations? Let's say there's cues. I mean, like I'm generally, even doing bartender trainings is no guarantees of just how it's going to go. It really isn't. I'll name drop. I did a one at Claridge's, and it was the most engaging. And everyone was asking it, and it was fantastic. I come out of there feeling 12 foot tall. I felt engaged. I felt enlivened. I felt like I'd done everything the brand could possibly want from me. I felt so good. And then other times you sit there and you've got like the one bartender that was there, and they've pulled out like 6 members of the floor team just to make up numbers because they felt like they needed a few extras, and it was like no one asked any questions or whatever like that. And it didn't matter. I didn't need the floor team because they didn't care. I could have just sat there and chatted with the bartender. Yeah. That would have been enough. I only need to talk to the people that I need to talk to. Don't create a scenario to make me feel better. That just makes me feel worse, But then, like some folks go out, they got metrics, and I don't. My reporting system with Richard is very informal.
There's a few people there.
He follows me on social media. He knows where I've been. But but I don't need to report back and say it doesn't matter whether it was like 3 people in the room or 20 as such. The more people, the better, because we want to get them brand out. But it needs to be meaningful. And so actually, like traveling up, like yesterday, I went to right out into the countryside where we are, relatively speaking. I mean, what your views of the UK is, but there's large amounts of countryside, and and you can drive for hours and not really, there's one place that you're going to, but you go there. I was there for 2 hours, and it was great. It was engaging. It was wonderful. It was well worth the time traveled. But that's because when you get there, you're talking to somebody who wants to receive you. Right. Yeah. I could get the local pub could call me down and say, Pete, come down and do a rum tasting for our regulars. This is the situation. You get down there, a genuine story. Not long after I moved down here, come down and do a rum club. You get down there and you're like, okay, cool. What rums have we got to work with? And I've got like 6 rums. Okay, so these are the rums we're going to be working with. Not very inspiring. Oh, and normally we do gin clubs because it's a gin pub. Like, great. Well, yeah. So this audience is going to be really switched on to rum to start with. Then, So the 4 people that turned up couldn't really give a shit. I think that was a long way of answering. Read the room.
Know your audience, John.
Know your audience.
I try. I just got to pull myself out of my own excitement and read the room a little bit more. Yeah.
But the enthusiasm is something that I hope that people get excited about, and actually you draw people in, and you do want to switch people onto it. And if we don't all talk about rum in a positive sense, that positivity won't rub off on others. So we have to do that. We have to be that person. You have to have was he told me moons ago that, when you come out of a rum club or a presentation, if the audience didn't understand 10% of what you were talking about, that means you were probably getting about right. Because actually, if they all understood it, then you're pitching it a bit too low, You feel like you want to be challenged, you want to be taken on, and there's the degrees of it. So, you know what? I reckon some of the folks that you might have, they might have been glazing over a little bit, but you know what? 3 months' time or whatever, they come back and you're like, actually, there's something they said or whatever, something you said, and you will have made a connection, and it'll only make sense a bit further down the road. So. Yeah.
That did happen to me once.
We give our time freely.
Yeah, there was somebody that came back over to the house and they asked me again for the Savannah High Ester reunion rum. Oh, and I knew, I was like, hey, something must have, a light bulb went off there, because if they're
you've converted a rummy there. Yeah. Like anyone coming back, I mean, that's serious booze,
Yeah. So, hey,
you don't do it lightly.
Something's working. Yeah.
I want to shift a little to distilleries you've been to, places you've traveled. You spoke a little bit earlier about some of the Madeira releases from That Boutique-y Rum Company, and I know, judging from your social media, you recently returned from a trip to Madeira. It looked like you visited several distilleries, and that's one of those locations that I think is a little lesser known in the rum enthusiast world, and the distilleries are a little lesser known, but I think there's excitement around a place like that. So I wanted to just get your take, now that you've kind of been there and been to a lot of these places in person. What kind of stood out to you during your visit? What Madeira distilleries do people need to know about? Just kind of enlighten us a little bit.
I guess so. I guess I'm blessed to have been invited on a number of trips over, trips to Guatemala, Cuba, Haiti, and all manner of places. I've been on sponsored trips and they've been wonderful. And it kind of when you travel, I know there are rum bloggers out there and viewers and people that haven't traveled, and you can offer opinions on anything. Opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one, but it's. And so you don't have to have seen it, but I think if you have been and seen it, it gives you a sense of perspective for the country itself and what the local people are doing and how they respond to the local brand. And I think it's like, does it matter what somebody in England, what they think of a brand versus the, 500,000 people who are drinking it back in the home country?
Right.
It's like, if they're drinking it, enjoying it, that you understand why people do what they do, and what we think about over here for a few hundred cases a year is irrelevant kind of thing. I was very lucky to be invited on the first press trip that Madeira government put on. There's a few folks from across Europe went on this thing, and I knew of Madeira Rum and the loose very lightly because got friends who were running running a company up in Manchester, graphics company, went on to build a tiki bar in Madeira. They moved back out in Carla was in Madeira, and she went with a partner out there and they built a tiki bar. But they give me a little gift pack of the main sort of brand on the island, and I tried it, and it was very early in my kind of my love of agricole has changed dramatically over the years. I didn't understand
going back, I went way back through your history of interviews, and I saw the evolution of the rums that you appreciate, and I saw the moment where you converted to agricole. But I think that's really cool because I think when you are a personality within the rum space, when you're putting out content about rum, there's kind of pressure to say you like everything. But sometimes it takes time to acclimate to certain, style of rum.
I did not get Shasta or agricole. I didn't get it when I first tried it. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing, and this has kind of led to who I am, is because I want those first tastes for other people to be a little bit guided so you understand what to expect. And it's not going to taste like Captain Morgan. I promise you, and these are the reasons why. And you'll either get it or you won't. And I love it when people say, I don't get agricole. It's like, I'm just going to keep working on you. I will keep working on you. You will like it. It's like you've been caught by your dad smoking. You're going to finish that packet of cigarettes, my friend. There's going to be exactly the same with that bottle of agricole. We're going to finish that together. But no, so I knew about, but I have to say that the Calita distillery that I tried, it wasn't wonderful. I couldn't really, it was a bit rough and I didn't really kind of get it. And for a few trips, so I think I've been to Madeira 6 times. I've been to all the distilleries a bunch. The last trip was very much a flying visit. I wasn't going to go. I couldn't afford it. And then I was almost being shamed into it. And I just did it. That's what credit cards are for, right? And I went. For me, I'm very lucky because it's only a 4-hour flight from the UK. It's very quick to get to. It's not particularly expensive. And I was put up by friends when I was out there. So you're going out with a different vibe because you've already done the groundwork of understanding distilleries. And so with each, this is everyone's journey in the rum world is you have one set of questions at the beginning, and then the more time you spend in it, you find new questions to ask. Right. And your development in the rum world and anything is always about finding your next level of questions to ask. And you realize how much you don't know, and you keep moving on. So with this last trip, it was it was just conversational, and to see what was new, to taste what was new, to see where people are getting to, and you can feel that the country's moving on. But that idea of that first rum that I didn't like, the Calita distillery, the white, the ubiquitous kind of red and yellow kind of label that you see all the tourist places, now I really appreciate it. It is a bit dirty. It is a bit rough and around the edges, and it's a bit invariable. And you know what? Actually, I really like it because it's got character, and it kind of sums up everything. Is there. And it's not to say the other rums are bad, but I can appreciate the qualities of this. But you don't want to get it out there. But Madeira is a country that's been buggering around with sugarcane since the 1500s or the 1400s.
Wow,
long time. Phylloxera kind of killed off the sugar industry for a bit. I'm sorry, the winemaking industry. That had sort of come to the fore, and so the cane came back again. I think ultimately the economics of Brazil becoming a big sugar producer sort of knocked the industry on the head, and then the final thing for the sort of the sugar industry in Madeira and the rum, ultimately the rum industry was the fact that when Portugal joined the EU. And there was an open market situation. And so they were forced to accept imported sugar for cheaper prices. And so the sugar industry collapsed in Madeira based on the demand of free trade. And so it really, a whole bunch of sugar places closed overnight. And so it had a big impact. But rum and sugar have been around for a long, long time on the island, I think. Like, you know, the Madeira government said that they sort of gloss over the fact that there's lots of moonshining and kind of going on the island. And there's lots of people make their own wine on the island. And it's just a thing that happens. It's a very Portuguese mindset to like, fuck you to the government kind of thing. We're just going to do. It's like the same in Portugal. It's the same in Brazil. It's like, you know, the people do what they want to do. They you know, the government aren't going to tell them otherwise. It's like, say rum's only been around for a couple of hundred years or whatever. It's been around a lot longer than that. Cane's been there for a long time.
Yeah, as long as the sugar cane's been there. As long as
distillation's been. Yeah, people have known about distillation for ages. And you can go to a hardware store in Madeira and you can buy a little copper alembics off the shelf in a hardware store.
Really?
Like, why would you have the ability to buy little copper alembics just off the shelf if you weren't using them? You know, it's
a lovely decoration.
Yeah, you know, but these are the things I kind of like, you know, I generally value it. I mean, it's the one place that I'm surprised that Luca hasn't explored in a big way, that Velio haven't done anything with. I think Luca went to Madeira, he said, and he didn't have a very good experience of authentic spirit. And a lot of the producers on the island are quite big in comparison to there's a lot of the places like in Cape Verde that he would be, or the Haiti that he values, you know, or the little mezcal brands that he values. I am still surprised they haven't done it, and hopefully they will at some point, because that would then bring Madeira onto a much bigger map. But you know, I absolutely fell in love with it. My love for agricole over the last little while has grown and grown. The spirit as it comes off the still is the pure. There's nowhere to hide with a pure distilled spirit, you know. There's literally nowhere to hide. If it tastes amazing off the still, it's probably only going to get better with time in cask, you know. And you know, and so that's kind of where I am taste wise. And there's so many cool people doing stuff. And then the island itself, I mean, like Mauritius is another island. I really want to go to Mauritius, but Mauritius is one of those places where there's so much diversity of rum styles on the island that you just kind of, it's like it's a little industry within its own right. It's a microcosm of the entire world of rum.
Yeah.
Madeira's like that, but they just don't use molasses. I mean, they could use the meal de caña.
If you find any molasses from there, it's also... Well,
they can. You can buy molasses and bring it in. And it's like, I'm not sure quite exactly what the relationship with the government, but you couldn't, you know, it's funny. This last trip was very much about the politics is not quite the right word, but the relationship between the producers and the government and between what you can call Madeira rum. You know, and they honestly, the island of Madeira, the people on Madeira, they don't know they're born. They're so freaking lucky that they've got a quality spirit, flavoursome spirit at a fantastic price. You wouldn't believe how cheap it is on the island.
Oh wow!
You know, and the producers sort of quite rightly sort of whine about the price of cane. You know, it's stupidly expensive in comparison to the rest of the world. And yet they're still making a really price thing. And the nice thing I'd say about Madeira, and the bit they don't realise also that protects them, is that the board that look after fortified wines, table wines, and rum and embroidery, as a side. Yeah, embroidery. Like, that was random, but you know, this department that looks after it has tasting panels that guarantee. You know, it's like. It's like, you know, so you can't just release a Madeira fortified wine and just call it Madeira wine. In order to pass, it has to go through a tasting panel that have to certify it. And it's kind of like, you know, Madeira, I mean, sort of like agricole in Martinique and that kind of vibe, you know, that there's a protection for the category built into it. Now, the protection is not necessarily as flexible. There's some stuff, you know, I tried on the last trip that was perfectly acceptable rum, and yet it failed the tasting panel because it didn't taste like this idea of what Madeira rum should taste like.
Oh, interesting.
And so it was outside of that. But like, you know, I can tell you that loads of folks around the rest of the world will be like, this is great rum. I would happily drink this. I'm here to tell you, most people would love this. It's fantastic. You know, so there's Madeira's like this market that has been involved with rum for centuries, sugarcane for centuries, yet has just realized they have a very marketable product that they've been doing very well. And it just takes a few folks. You know, I mean, there's a few agricole lovers in America, and if I could just get some of those across on the next like rum festival, like next, there's like the first, it's like invariably the first weekend after Easter. Come across and experience it. The rum festival itself is something you can do in an afternoon. There's no real, because it's just the local producers, not lots of other imported brands. But you come over and see it firsthand. You know, it's that thing like you know, circling back to what I said earlier on. I don't have to go to Foursquare to appreciate Foursquare, but when I'm walking up the road and you've got the sun on your back and you smell the molasses and the age now, all these sort of little evocative things make the whole experience so much more real, and you feel it. And it's this, like, when you walk up to Hamden, like you're driving down like in the minibus, and hang on a minute, this smells a bit different. This is not what I was expecting. It's like, oh wow, hang on a minute, and you get that, these things you need people to go to, and then we need. Madeira, the government need to invest in a few more folks. They invested in me, and I've had bless them, Diplomatico took me to Venezuela for a cocktail competition just as I was kind of falling out of love with the brand. I like it. I every respect for what they do, but I don't drink it now. If they'd invested in me a few years earlier, then I might have been a lot more vocal about the brand. You never know. But it was a fantastic trip. I value it greatly. It told me a lot about it. We need a few folks to come over and get to see the sort of the honesty of the Madeira rum producers. They can't make bad rum. Like if they tried, it'd be like, it's like, they just, there's a basic inbuilt honesty. Nova de Madeira were there on the very first trip, and I hadn't seen their main copper still they got, and there was this little column set up to one side, and it turned out afterwards it's a pack column and stuff, quite small. So I point to the guy in charge, like, that's where you make the rum? And he looks at me like, no, you can't make rum on that. That's where you make the vodka, you idiot. And like, he didn't say the idiot, but like his look on his face was like, make rum on that. Right? It's like that's stupid. They've got this like sort of 20 plate copper column set up that's making this most amazing spirit, like 100-year-old still, and they don't sugar it. They don't do it. There was even like the Madeiran GI. Previously had an allowance for beneficiado, which is the rums that are sweetened with a miel de caña, and it's named. If you're buying a bottle of, and it's got beneficiado written on the front, it's a sweetened style. Imagine it says that right there on the bottle. You can't miss it. It's a style. If you like it, you buy it, you drink it. That's what you like. Of course, they dropped it because of the EU changes on additional sugar. Like the other year. And so they actually dropped it. So you can't even make it now in Madeira. So you can't even make sweetened Madeira rum anymore. It's just not even a thing now. There's a basic honesty about the place. There's that kind of the whole thing with the GI and other places like Barbados and how they do it. But like they've gone for a very protected flavor style. Mm-hmm. But how you distill is entirely up to you. It doesn't matter. Like, there's that's completely open as long as the flavor represents what they think Madeira rum should taste like. And that might have to loosen a little bit. But it's fascinating.
Past the tasting panel.
Honest to God, I got that. I went on a previous trip. I saw the sheet that they use for the thing, and there's grading. The bottom grade is mediocre, is how it's described. Nice. Why, like, there's all these different levels of exceptional, acceptable, exceptional, mediocre. Can you imagine being judged as mediocre? Your rum is mediocre. I mean, that's probably the most damning thing you can ever get back on a response.
Do you know how they make up those panels?
Generally, it's experts on the island, so people within the government, but also recognised people. Okay. So it's, I think it's fascinating. I love it. I think it really protects, and I would love to see some of that going. Other islands, other places. Barbados could never go to that point. They could never get to that point. And you know what? Maybe they don't need to. Frank talking about the pride. His comment on, does it need a GI? I kind of agree with him in some respects. Like, Barbados has a reputation for making excellent rum that's born out of centuries of production. Do they need a GI to reinforce it? Barbados will continue to make excellent rum, even if some of it's a bit shit. But like in the whole, most of it's going to be it's fine. It's fantastic. The GI in Madeira is very different in the way that it protects. And does it matter to folks in general? It gives people like me and geeky people who want to go there and find out about it. It gives you a mechanism to talk about and to understand Madeira rum and the rest of it. But the last few trips have been more about, you get that on day one, first trip, and then on subsequent trips, you go and you see how it relates to and the problems they have. Or this last trip was literally just talking about what the future is going to be. But we're in a position where I diverted massively from where I got. I was going to say, we've got a country that's been dealing with sugarcane for centuries. They've probably been making rum for centuries. Their rum, 95% what they make is unaged because it's for the local poncha market, but it's quality juice. It's amazing. Even like the most rustic stuff from Calita Distillery, I think in the morning, I think it's wonderful. Actually, I think it's really good. And I've kind of like it more and more. They might be in danger of trying to clean it up a little bit too much, some of the other producers, but they don't know how to age. They don't lay down lots of stuff. They haven't got a long history of aging rum because they drink so little aged rum that they just haven't got good at it. So what we've got, the next few years, I think Madeira are going to need a consultant to go over and help them with aging. Because they haven't, no one producer's got enough casks to employ somebody full time to be monitoring and master blendering. So they're going to need someone to come in on a consultant basis. And so that's going to be the next 25 years. I kind of hope that I live long enough to see when, some of the, don't get me wrong, some of the aged rum is great. It's lovely. It's very, very drinkable. Like, I've got no problems with the rum, but they're not quite in that, like a bottle of JMXO is,
right.
Or HSCXO. I mean, that's some good shit there. That's everyday high quality drinking rum. Madeira are nowhere near to be able to produce anything like that. Not for a long time yet. They've got to loosen up as producers. They've got to trust each other a little bit. They've got to gain more experience, and they need people to come in and do it. So I find it so very exciting to be there and watching it right now. I feel blessed. I got invited. If I didn't get invited on that trip, I would have gone anyway, because I've got friends who are out there. But it got me in at the ground floor, as it were. And now I'm in this fantastic position where I can watch things play out for the next, hopefully, 25 years. Hopefully I'll last that long.
I think that's one of the most exciting things in rum is when you hear about a place that has its own tradition and just isn't that big in the export market.
No,
just being able
so
to
we need a brand.
Watch how it evolves and everything is always interesting.
So I just say, Nick Ferris, if you're listening, get off your arse, mate. We know that you're going to bring a brand in. Just get in and make it happen. We know it's going to, of all the people it's going to be, it's got to be Nick.
You
Come
brought
on, Nick.
us rum fire, so Nick. Bring us Madeira rum now, right?
Yeah, Nick loves the island. He's just got to get off his ass and do it, hasn't he? But there are people there, and none of the brands on the island are big. So this is the problem with the American market. I think is because of the size of it. Yeah. That you have to go in with a certain volume to be able to support that market.
And it's like 50 markets in one, basically.
And it's not easy. So it's not easy to go in, but you need somebody of that ilk that would do like Nick's done with Rum Fire.
Champion.
And bring something in and really get behind it, and it could be, it doesn't have to be Nick, it could be any one of a number of people, but he's a friend I've known for ever since the beginning. So it's kind of like that we need that vibe. None of them are massive producers, but they've got a product that really is genuinely premium on the island. All the producers make it. Rosinio, a tiny guy, like literally making it like the size of my flat that I'm in right now, my apartment. Wow. Is the size of his distillery. And he's making some quality juice, and he's working his ass off like during cane cutting season to keep up. And then the other distilleries are much bigger, but but there's still no less sort of quality goes into it. A process. Honestly, I find it's fascinating. I'm just lucky enough that it's close enough to me. If I was closer to Mexico, I'll be on that scene as well. I would love to spend some time with that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But for me, that's a very long way away.
Right.
And I haven't got the budget, but I would be there.
John and I need to get our asses down there.
We should.
Find some for us, man. We could do a bottle swap if I can very happily do that.
Do a Mexico Madeira exchange.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll take a mediocre Madeira rum at this point.
Well, we've floated all around various topics in the rum world, and now, as per tradition, it's time for us to meander over to our final and special segment of the Rumcast, the bonus round that we like to refer to as the rapid fire round, which you already made a point of telling us you were 100% on board for. No fear.
I can't make myself look any more stupid, can I?
Oh no, you
well,
can.
We're gonna try. Yeah.
I don't mind.
So with that in mind, are you prepared?
I'm prepared. Bring it on.
Well, I think you know the rules, so I'm going to put 60 seconds on the clock. And John, are you ready to go?
I think I'm ready. I know Peter's going to be full of short, pithy, laconic, even answers that are going to be perfect. So we're ready.
All right. I've got 60 seconds and go.
All right. Neat or on the rocks?
Neat.
Column, pot, or blend?
Blend.
All right. Aged or unaged?
That's true. Yeah, all right, unaged, but no, that flies against the pot column bit.
Okay.
I'm probably unaged.
Okay, and then molasses or cane juice?
Oh, sorry, Richard, cane juice.
2008 Peter Holland, molasses or cane juice?
Molasses.
All right. If you could drop a literal floating rum shack anywhere on the earth, where would it be?
Martinique.
Okay.
answer.
Yeah, that is a good answer. I like that. Being from the UK with the surname Holland, I had to ask. Any relation to Tom Holland, Spider-Man in the MCU?
Yeah, man, he's around here all the time drinking rum.
Oh, I knew it. I knew it.
You're like, see him back there, yeah.
Yes, you're like the Spider-Man of rum. It's perfect. All right. Is there any truth to the rumor that you're going to be the brand ambassador for a brand called the Even More Boutique-y Rum Company?
Don't tell Adam.
Okay, I won't tell him. Your favorite bar in the UK not named Trailer Happiness, because we know that one's great.
Oh, shit. Oh, God. Apologies to everyone else. Probably Beachcomber for the agricole. Oh, but it could be Black Parrot. Milk.
All right. Other than the
I'll plead the fifth.
Okay, all right, that's a better answer. All right, squeezing the last one in here. The Floating Rum Shack has the initials FRS, TFRS, which also happens to be the initials of another rum-related entity, the Florida Rum Society. Is this coincidence or part of a bigger plot that will soon be revealed?
I think you'll be hearing from my lawyers.
That's time.
Excellent answer.
Came full circle. The Floating Rum Shack legal team, they're very busy these days. Well, Peter, thank you for taking the time to join us and bounce around. We covered a lot of topics, so a lot of ground. Yeah. Really fun conversation. We appreciate it. Anything to share with the rum world before we let you go? Oh well, if you're of mind to travel, then now that the world has opened back up again after a lot of this COVID distractions, then we've got the Rum Show in the UK. Sounds like it's going to be like the end of third weekend of July. All the stuff I got planned is kind of like from a brand point of view. I'm there. I'll be exhibiting or whatever, with Foursquare or whatever. Get yourself over to the Rum Show. I think there's going to be an online element to it if you can't make it to the UK. Don't forget the Whiskey Show. There's a nice rum section to it. Rumfest. And you know what? Just get out. The bit I've really missed the last couple of years. I've missed the festival. I've missed tasting new things and keeping up with it. I rely on festivals. You've just try all the. You got to drink all the rum. You can't know rum if you don't drink all the rum. So you just got to get and try it. And it's all right to spit some of it back out again, but got to try it in the first place. You never know. All right, well, everyone, go check out thefloatingrumshack.com. Don't mate. My Instagram. My Instagram. Yeah, you can do that. Don't look at the website. It's a security risk. Honestly, please don't look at it. Check out the Floating Instagram in that case. Instagram. Yeah, there you go. All right. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Rumcast. As we just said, if you want to find out more about Peter and his work, don't go to his website. Follow him on Instagram, as he said. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes. And so check that out. Follow Peter. He's always doing interesting stuff. Maybe he'll be posting more pictures like the ones from Madeira on his next trip. But in the meantime, John, you shared with me today that we just hit a big milestone. We did. Yeah. What happened? I'm very excited to announce we did hit 100 reviews on the internet. Now, that's everything. Everywhere you can place a review, we've somehow hit 100. I don't know how it happened. Cumulatively. Will. Yeah, cumulatively, right? I'm not sure. I know how it happened. We have all these excellent listeners who heard us, on here pleading for reviews, and they listened. Yeah, they came through. They were very patient with us, and they came through and they delivered. So thank you to everyone who left a review. Those really do help people more people discover the show. So we really do appreciate it. And if you haven't done it yet, everyone's kind of doing it now. Over 100. You might as well jump on board. So why not join in? Apple Podcasts is always a great place to do it. But if you listen on Spotify or something, that place is good too. And John, in outside of reviews, we always love to hear from people. Where can they find us? Yeah, well, just like when you go to check out Peter's Instagram, then you just hop over to the Rumcast Instagram. That's right. And there you go. Or if you're already on the Rumcast Instagram, why not check us out on Facebook? Or if you use Twitter, if you follow all the craziness that happens on Twitter and you want to also get a release when we release our episodes through there, then hey, you'll know about it there. So we're on all of those platforms. On YouTube, we're seeing more subscribers on YouTube. So that's interesting and fun, and maybe we'll maybe we'll do some video stuff. I was gonna say we might have to show our faces if we keep getting these YouTube subscribers. Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know. Be careful what you wish for, YouTube subscribers. Anyway, all that said, thank you everyone for listening. As always, if you want to support the show, you can also go to patreon.com/therumcast. That's patreon.com/therumcast. You get bonus episodes now, so that's fun.
Boom.
Also, we do a monthly happy hour, which is really great. We just had our second one of those. Such a blast to hang out with listeners and just talk rum together. Everyone brings a bottle. Good times.